Show. Welcome, welcome, welcome to tonight's conversation. The conversation we are having is about masculine center women, or we may want to call them butch or studs, but Black women who love women, but who present in a masculine manner, may it be their clothing or their identity, but in any way, in either case, they have a more masculine identity and they have decided that they wanted to have their own families, decided to carry their own children. And this is not always an easy thing to do. We have tonight with us two guests who have generously agreed to share their story, partly because this is a conversation that there seems to be a very little education and support around. And so we are grateful to have them join us and share with us their experience. Why don't we do this? Why don't we go ahead and start out and have each person just introduce themselves, tell us, your age, where you're from, and tell us about what made you decide to become pregnant. So why don't we start with Sarah?
Hey guys, my name is Sarah Stevens. I am 36 years old. I am originally from Hampton, Virginia, but now I reside in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am a professional photographer and videographer. I do own my own production company, and I produce music as well. I decided that I wanted to have my own child. Well, I always wanted to be a mother. Ever since I was a teenager. I knew that I was gay, and I knew that I had a very dominant demeanor. But when I met my wife back in 2011, she had two sons of her own. So that it kind of sparked up the feeling to, want to carry my own child. And she actually encouraged me, because at first I asked her if she would carry my child because I didn't want to lose my body. We all say that. We got abs. And, I've been an athlete my whole life. So just the thought of gaining weight and just carrying extra weight, and the stories I hear of how you can't lose your baby fat, it was kind of scary. But she even expressed how beautiful it is for a woman to carry their own child if they can, so watching how she was raising her own sons and just the unconditional love her sons had for her, I said, I really do want to experience this, and that's what made me want to carry my own baby. So
all right, thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
You go ahead and do the same. Introduce yourself, let us know where you're from, your age, and what made you want to have and carry your own baby.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is T. I'm originally from Illinois, currently residing in Georgia, right outside of Georgia, in Leesburg, Georgia, actually, to be exact. I'm 40 years old, just turned 40 last June. So that's part of the reason that prompted me to go ahead and carry my own child. Like Sarah said, I've always had a passion and a love for children. At a very early age, a lot earlier than my teenage years, my mom used to be concerned. At times we'd be in a grocery store when I was like 9 or 10, I'd be like, oh, Mom, look at the baby. And I just always had this sense of wanting to nurture a child and have children of my own. But I was terrified of the thought of what it took to get pregnant, because as you know now, technology and the science and everything is a lot different and more advanced than what it was so many years ago. And then also just what it takes to go through it, and then being the type of woman that I am. I've always been a tomboy, always been into sports. I was a daddy's girl, but I was a daddy's girl because he loved that I embraced all the things that the little boys did that my brothers just wasn't so into. So just been within several different relationships and had discussions about them carrying the child. And it was something that never just actually worked out. And then I'd see all these relationships where masculine women like myself would get attached to other women's children and they would leave. And I was like, I couldn't deal with that kind of heartbreak. And the very last breakup that I had, we had actually discussed about her carrying a child. And my family was gonna accept that child as my blood child as well. And it didn't work out. And then with me getting older, I think I was 36 when I decided, okay, enough is enough. I don't wanna wait too long and regret not doing it myself. So that's how I ended up, making that decision to carry a child on my own.
Thank you for sharing that. Actually, one of the things you mentioned is something I'd like to talk about for a little bit. The concept of, a masculine woman generally being in a relationship with a woman who already has children and taking on a parental role in that relationship. What happens when that relationship ends? I've seen it happen multiple times. We actually had a very popular post on the blog where a woman shared her experience where she was very scared of losing access to the children that she basically raised since they were very small children. So the fact that you brought up that this was a concern for you and having the experience of the relationship not working out, it definitely is probably one of the reasons that more masculine women should consider having their children. Not to say that the relationship may not work out in the end, but just because life sometimes happens and you don't really have any control over what the other person does, but a child that you've actually carried yourself is your blood relation, and if wherever the relationship goes, that's your baby, basically.
Right.
Was that a concern for you as well, Sarah? Did you ever have those questions about getting attached to a child, your partner's child, and if the relationship ended, what would you do?
Yes, absolutely. I met my boys when they were 6 and 7. They're 16 and 17 now. And maybe about a year and a half into my relationship with my wife, she was just my girlfriend at the time, we broke up for about 5 months. And it was pretty bad. And I wasn't able to see the boys. And the situation, I had to go to therapy because once you get attached to kids, it's really hard to let go. The kids, they're the ones that's innocent. So it's something to really think about. I think when it comes to any woman that wants children, they should really consider carrying their own child, but yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah. I know someone who's going through this right now, and they're both feminine presenting. Mm-hmm. But of course, it doesn't really matter what the outside looks like. It's all that matters is the heart. If you love a child and have raised them from birth. This is one of my friends. She raised this child from birth, and like I think 6 months or something like that. And the relationship isn't working out, and so now they have to they have to deal with separating and letting the child go. You also mentioned a little bit earlier on about the concerns you may have with carrying. Did any of you have a concern or a worry about what it would look like to be a masculine woman carrying a baby in this society? I mean, already, you got to be real strong to be like, yep, I'm a woman in men's clothing, but now you a pregnant woman in men's clothing. Was that a concern for any of you?
T, you can go ahead.
Okay. Not so much as what people thought about how I look, but more so my reaction to it, because I have a temper, and I express when people are looking at me a certain type of way. And when you're carrying a child, you have to be extremely protective. You can't just think about you. You have to think about the child that's in your stomach. And I talked to one of my closest friends when I first was considering carrying myself. And I talked to my family, and once they were okay with it, it really didn't too much matter what anyone else thought. I knew I was going to get the side eyes from straight and, gay and lesbian people, which I did, but I knew what I wanted. So I had to try to ignore it. So it wasn't so much a concern as to, I already knew the looks and the questions and the side eyes would come. It was just, how am I going to handle reacting to that and adjusting to just keeping myself calm and kind of ignoring it was more of my issues.
I think I was more self-conscious more than anything, because I was so used to dressing dominant, but also I'm very androgynous. So I do have a feminine side to me, not necessarily dressing feminine, but I can pull it off, I feel like. And I wouldn't feel as uncomfortable because I'm very comfortable in boy clothes. But when my belly started getting bigger and bigger, I think I was worried about more how I looked than someone else, you know? I think by the time I was about maybe 5 or 6 months, I just started wearing leggings everywhere. I started wearing leggings and just, some tennis shoes. And at the beginning of my pregnancy, I was wearing leggings, and I even threw on some pumps, and yeah, I can send you guys some pictures later, but it was kind of uncomfortable. But when I tried to throw on my boy pants and I realized I was gaining so much weight, I didn't want to invest in more boy. I was already getting big, so buying even bigger clothes on the boy side, it was just going to make me look even bigger. So therefore, I think I was forced to get in tune with my femininity. Makes sense. So I think I was worried about how I look more than the actual world, and everybody told me I was beautiful, and I just soaked it in.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. What about you, T? Did you, I know you said that you were more concerned about having a temper, but did you feel like you had to, did you buy maternity clothing? Now that we're kind of like shifting to that subject, because Kimberly has a question. We're going to take the question in a minute, Kimberly. But what about you? How did you adjust to getting pregnant, to gaining weight, and then like having a certain athletic physique? And then
Right.
What do? Did you go to the maternity section?
No, so not at first. So at first I just tried to tough it out. I was still trying to squeeze into those Levi's jeans. And it just got to the point where my stomach was too big, and I was uncomfortable looking at myself because it just, I guess, your brain my brain anyway, was kind of brainwashed into thinking a woman like me is supposed to look like, I hadn't seen any pregnant studs before in person. So when I looked in the mirror, I'm like, this looks, you typically see feminine women pregnant. So I didn't wear women's clothes, but I think once I got about 6-7 months, I had to go. They had these stretchable pants, maternity pants with the little belly strap,
Yeah.
And they were extremely comfortable. I hated the way they looked, but I'm like, look, I got this whole 7-pound baby in my stomach. Like, I want to be comfortable. So I got the maternity pants, but I still was wearing like my collared shirts, and I'd wear very loose polo shirts. But that's it. I toughed it out. I looked weird to myself, but that's about the farthest I went. I did get some of the legging maternity jeans. They're jeggings, I guess that's what they call them. Yeah. Belly swoop.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a question. So I don't know what your work environment was like, but if you had to go into like a professional setting or corporate setting, did you ever have to do that at all?
So at the time, I wasn't in the leadership role that I'm in now, but I did work in the office. But I had the luxury of being on this job for several years. So a lot of the people that I work with are kind of like family and friends to me. So they have known how much I've wanted a child. And of course, I'm the only lesbian in the office, and they've always encouraged me, T, you should just have your own baby. So once they found out I was trying, they were very, very excited, very supportive. And they even threw me a baby shower. I had like 2 baby showers, one at work and one with my family. So I was blessed to have the work family that I have, but they was extremely supportive.
Sorry, y'all. I had to go. I realized that I hadn't turned my other lights on. It was getting dark in here, so I ran over to turn the light on. My bad. Okay, awesome. Kimberly, you have a question, girl. Let me go ahead and unmute you so you can ask your question. You still there, Kimberly?
Oh, I'm here, but my kids are in the background, so I know y'all don't like when the kids are in the background. So if you want to read my question, you can read my question for them.
Okay, I'll read it. I can hear you. I can hear the babies in the background.
Okay.
So she says, lately I've been, hang on one second. Back to mute, girl. Lately, I've been reading about the disparities women in our community face in regards to healthcare. Did any of you experience any discrimination or assumptions from your OBGYNs during your pregnancy or before you got pregnant and were considering your options?
That's a pretty good question. I don't necessarily think I experienced any discrimination. My actual OBGYN, his whole team was actually pretty good. The very first time, well, when we started looking into pregnancy and looking for our donor, et cetera, we had a lot of questions about the insurance and how that would actually work. I actually did IUI, and my insurance did cover my IUI procedure. Of course, I did. Me and my wife would just pay for our sperm. But as far as discrimination, I know I do remember them telling me that it was going to cost a little bit more money because I am in a lesbian relationship, and I'm not trying to do it the natural way with a man. So that was the only disheartening part of my situation. I mean, it worked itself out, but I don't think that, if you want to call it that discrimination, that, you can, I guess you can call that discrimination, but I think that's the only thing that I've probably experienced.
Interesting. What about you, T?
Yeah, I didn't experience any discrimination while carrying her, not within like my healthcare and insurance or anything. I had a really good midwife, and she was, I kind of shared a little bit of my background with her because for me, it was everything about being pregnant was extremely uncomfortable. Just being touched, examined. In my personal life, I haven't been at, I used to be a touch me not. And then I opened up, later in life, but there were certain things that I was still uncomfortable with, just a random, aside from going to get my regular PAPs and checkups, just frequently, because when you're pregnant, once you get closer to giving birth, they're checking you every week, looking at you all up in there, in there and checking everything. So it was very uncomfortable for me, but I had a really good team, and they were, I didn't have any kind of discrimination other than, and it wasn't discrimination, it was just, I don't know what you would call it. One of the nurses that had to, I got induced to start dilating. And I was explaining to her that, I haven't had much interaction in there to try to be gentle. And she's like, "You pregnant, what do you mean you don't have any interaction down there?" And she was really rough with me. And that kind of was the first part of me starting to go into labor and everything. And it was just, she was very inconsiderate and very rough. So that kind of broke my spirit, because that was the beginning of me about to have birth. And I was like, if these are going to be the nurses that are here helping, assist with me delivering a child, what is the whole experience going to be like, So, but not any discrimination with insurance or doctors or anything like that.
So she probably made an assumption that, you were having a baby, so you must have had sex with a man in order to.
Oh yeah, she made it very clear that that was her assumption. Yeah.
Well, let's do this. Let's transition to the next question, which Sarah touched on that a little bit. How did you get pregnant? Because one of the challenges that kind of happens when lesbians, regardless of your presentation, whenever a lesbian gets pregnant, people just minds are blown. They're like, how? I even put there was a couple who generously, and they're both kind of femme presenting, they created a video on YouTube called How to Get a Lesbian Pregnant. And then they asked me to share it on my blog, and I shared it because over and over again, I would hear people say, well, how is she a lesbian and have kids? Or, and we know that there's some people who they may have had children with a man at an early part of their life, and they're still lesbian. I know couples who have had children by getting a known donor or going to a sperm bank or whatever. But I'm curious to know, number one, how did you get pregnant, and how did you deal with the side eyes, if there were any, from people in our own community who may have made assumptions about your sexuality because you were pregnant?
Okay. Well, like I said earlier, my procedure was the IUI procedure. Do you guys know what that is?
Actually, I do not know, so it'd be awesome if you would explain that to some folks. I'm sure know, but I don't know what it is.
Gotcha. So the difference between an IUI and an IVF. So with the IUI, um, your insemination, they open you up, they plant the sperm in you, and is that simple. With the IVF, that's when they take the eggs out, they inseminate the eggs, they put the eggs back in you, and they say it's an 80-20 chance. So the IVF is an 80% chance. They say the IUI is a 20% chance. But the financial difference is IVF costs a lot more than the IUI, of course. So I'm a woman of faith. Me and my wife went the cheap way out, of course. But also, before we even started the process we went to our fertility specialist, and they took my blood work. They actually found polyps on my ovaries. So before we even started the process, I had to have surgery to get those polyps removed. He mentioned to me and my wife that even if I was sleeping with a man, or even if we tried the process at home, I would have never gotten pregnant because of those polyps. I learned a lot about my body, about the woman body during this whole process. So after they removed my polyps, maybe about a month or two later, we did the first insemination, and it didn't take. I didn't get pregnant. The second time it took, but they told me I had to, my insurance would have covered the IVF, but I had to fail 6 times with the IUI before they can insure me for the IVF. Yeah. It was a beautiful experience. If I had to do it again, I would. Of course, I love my baby. There was a second part of your question though that you asked that I don't remember. Can you?
Oh, absolutely. So the second part was, so how did you deal with people making assumptions about your sexuality because you were a lesbian who was pregnant?
Right. Now, when I got pregnant, it shocked the whole world. Well, the world that I know, the people that I know, it shocked the whole world because everybody expected my wife to carry the baby, of course. There's a young lady on Instagram. She has a podcast as well, and she has a really big following. I think she has close to about 80 to 90,000 followers. And I shared a picture of one of my maternity pics with me, my wife, and my 2 sons. She actually shared the picture, and it started a whole conversation, and it was so many naysayers under the post. So, it did shock the world. I got a lot of negativity. From a lot of strangers because it didn't look to them. It didn't look right. People started calling me names. People started saying, "Why is that man pregnant?" It was very heartbreaking. But of course, we got through it. But I also had a lot of support. I got a lot of love. It started a lot of conversations. It helped educate a lot of people. I have so many messages in my inbox where a lot of dominant or masculine or studs, what you would call us, they reached out to me and asked me, what made you even want to, carry your own child? I'm very scared. Can you enlighten me on the situation? How did you go about doing it? I love to help people. I love to give out helpful information. So that's what helped make the experience so beautiful, but I had a lot of naysayers, but hey, I got my baby, so I don't even care.
Right.
My baby.
I love that attitude. But yeah. So do you feel like you got more naysayers from people in the lesbian community more so than outside of our community?
No, I think if I did, I didn't see it or I didn't hear it, but The community, I'm really big in my community in Charlotte. And I had a lot of support. I didn't really hear any negativity that came from the LGBT community at all. If anything, women like me and T, they came to me for support and for help, if anything. So I was very proud of the LGBT community. From the naysayers, that, you know, the things that I was hearing came from a lot of strangers, of course. I would say it probably been the straight community. If they was gay, I didn't know. But from the LGBT community, no, I'm very proud of my community. They supported me hard, very hard. Yeah.
Hear that. What was your experience like? Number one, how did you get pregnant? And how did you deal with any questions that there may have been about your sexuality once you became pregnant?
Okay, so I did a lot of research, watched a lot of YouTube videos, and like I said, the relationship prior to me deciding to carry on my own, we had reached out to doctors and had been going forward with my partner at the time, supposed to carry, and I would help raise as if it was my child. So I had a lot of, you know, knowledge and education on how to do it, but I ended up doing it at home. I have a known donor. And at the time where I decided to do it, I wasn't with my partner that I'm with now. So she came in right as I was saying, look, I've made this decision. I don't know how you feel about it, but, you know, I've decided that I wanted to carry my own child. And she was against it totally at first. She's a feminine woman, and she has a child. Her son is 11 now. Since 3 years ago, he came in my life when he was 7, 8. So she was like, oh, why don't you just let me, you know, carry for you? And I was like, I've talked to my family, I've talked to my closest friends, and I'm set on this. I've dealt with, you know, multiple women that said, let me carry for you, and then it doesn't work out, and then I'm back at square one. So she wasn't supported at first, but I ended up doing it at home. I did it 3 times. The first time she wasn't there. The second 2 times she was. And what we did was I took a syringe. The person actually did his business in a sandwich bag. The first time he did it, he used a condom and it didn't work. The second time I researched, there's spermicides and different things in condom that can kill the sperm. So we used a sandwich bag and a syringe. And it's very uncomfortable and embarrassing how I did it, but I literally took the syringe with the sperm in it and put it in me, but didn't eject it in me at the time, because they say if you stimulate yourself to have an orgasm, you're supposed to, as you're having an orgasm, push the sperm through then, because your body kind of sucks it up as you're having an orgasm. Mm-hmm. But she was there in the living room at the time trying to arouse me. It was, like I said, it was very uncomfortable. I was laying on the couch with my buttocks propped up and my head kind of lower on the couch. I put a couple of pillows under my butt and did it. Like I said, the 3rd time is when it worked. But it was very uncomfortable for me. It was awkward with her being there because we had maybe been talking for about 2 months. Wow. And I was like, if you're gonna be here, you're gonna help me. So the 3rd time that I did it, it actually worked. And I was shocked that it was work, because I was just like, okay, I've did all the things they said to do in the videos, what the doctor said to do, and it wasn't working. And then when I thought it didn't work, I was feeling sick. And my mom's like, you know, you might be pregnant. I'm like, Mom, it didn't work. I'm not pregnant. And I was like, I had been buying pregnancy tests all throughout the process, because my sister at the time was trying to conceive as well. And she told me there's a fertility app that you can download. And based on when you have your cycle, it'll calculate the days when you should try. Right. Yeah. So that's how I was tracking everything. And I ended up taking a pregnancy test anyway. And it came through that I was pregnant. I was literally sitting there on the toilet, like in shock. I had a Doberman Pinscher at the time, and I literally was like screaming to myself, I'm pregnant. The dog was just looking at me crazy. And I actually was in shock that it actually worked, and that it scared me then. But yeah, it was a very uncomfortable process. And I started I did a documentary when I first started trying, just handling the sperm, trial and error, sperm running down your leg, having to kind of do the rodeo walk to the shower. It was disgusting for me, actually. But everything that I did was worth it, you know. And then because I did it at home, that's more reason why I got a lot of, oh yeah, right, that didn't work. You know, you probably was sneaking, what they call it, dick diking and sneaking dick, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I knew, you know, I knew how I did it and everything. So I didn't really care what people said. It didn't bother me.
Got it. You know, you brought up something that I want to address. I also want to, but before I get to that question, I'd love to know, Sarah, when you and your wife discovered that you were pregnant, what was that moment like? Tell us about the moment, because T gave us details about the moment, girl.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get some. Somebody asked me if I had additional lighting.
Yeah.
My room.
Yeah.
Is that better?
It is better.
It is better? Okay, good.
We'll work with it. Yeah.
So, so the very first time, you know, I did the procedure, it didn't take, and I fell into a deep depression for about 2 weeks. So I told my doctor, I said, you know what, I want to take a month off. They shut my ovaries down, and I didn't have a period. So the second time I went in to do the procedure, there was a different doctor that actually inseminated me. And, you know, when she came in, I had a long prayer with her. I said, listen, well, let me back up a little bit. So the first time it didn't take, I started doing extreme research. As far as the foods I ate, I got with an acupuncturist. I think it was the acupuncturist that actually changed a lot of things for me in my mindset. Because she promised me when I walked in, she said, I'm gonna get you pregnant. I'm gonna teach you a lot about your body, right? So I went to an acupuncturist for about 3 weeks, right? So when I went in to do my second procedure, I told the doctor, I said, listen, I really want to get pregnant. I'm gonna pray with you. And when she inseminated me, I said, I want to completely forget about it. I said, I want to go on with my life. I want to go back outside and play basketball with my boys. You know, I don't even want to think about it. It's just like, you know, look at her. She is beautiful. Oh, she's beautiful.
I can hear her.
And she's your twin too. She is your twin.
Okay.
Thank you. So I forgot about everything. So about 2 weeks later, it was October 15th. It was actually the day of my father-in-law's birthday. I was in the bed and my wife said, you should really go take a pregnancy test. I said, okay, cool. So we had the little $1 pregnancy test from Dollar Tree, right? So I went in the bathroom and I peed on the stick. I actually gave it to my wife. She went in the kitchen and she put it up to the light and she seen a very faint line. She said, baby, I think you're pregnant. I was like, nah, that line not strong enough for me. I don't think so. She said, no, I think you're pregnant. I said, nah. I said, go get me another test. So she went and got me about 3 more tests. They all said the same thing. And I still kept doubting. I said, nah, I don't think I'm pregnant, right? I said, so the last test, I said, please go to the store and get me one of those tests that reads pregnant or not pregnant. I want to see the words, right? So she went to the store, came back. We were both in the bathroom. And I said, okay, I'm going to pee on the stick. I said, after that, I'm going to walk out the bathroom. If I'm pregnant, I need you to scream as loud as you can. She said, okay. So I peed on the stick. I left her in the bathroom. Maybe about 4 to 5 seconds later, I just heard the loudest scream. Aww. And I was like, shut up. It blew my mind. I said, I'm really pregnant. Like, for real, I'm pregnant. And so that evening, we went and met our whole family, which is my wife's side of the family. We went to meet at a restaurant for her father's birthday. And that's when we shared the news with them. And I mean, it was one of the best days of my life. I would never forget it. And I'm a creative. So, you know, I'm a videographer and, you know, I love creating. So our announcement, we actually did the Maury show. we reenacted the Maury show. Yeah, it was really, really, really fun. My wife told me, she said, listen, you know, while being pregnant, I want you to do everything that you want to do because you might never get this again. So I literally did everything that I wanted to do. I took all the pictures I wanted to take. I did all the videos I wanted to take. And, you know, my baby, she's about to be 2 in June. And I want her to see everything, like the whole process. It was one of the best feelings of my life. Yeah.
Sharing that. And I'm glad that you mentioned, you know, wanting to remember the process, have a, you know, I know T says she documented the entire process as well, but did you do any, you know, photo shoots for when you were pregnant? Because, you know, the thing now is for everyone to do, you know, the belly picture. And we actually shared Sarah's picture. I think there was a picture of you and your wife and the kids. I shared it on my Facebook page. And it may have been about a year or so ago. It was after you had the baby. But
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm curious to know, did you do that as well?
I did not. It was awkward for me looking at myself pregnant. So my mom, she would always sneak pictures. She would wait till I wasn't looking because my mom took numerous pictures and I would always catch her like, Mom, stop taking pictures. But I was uncomfortable with how I looked pregnant. Now I took a lot of pictures by myself. Like if I'm in the bathroom, I took a lot of pictures of my stomach, videos of her moving inside of my stomach, just for my own personal self. But I didn't want other people taking pictures of me. I wasn't comfortable with other people taking pictures of me because I don't know what they would do with them. And I have no pictures other than what I sent to you for social media, which I'm okay with those being shared. But up until this point, I've never shared any pictures of my pregnancy while I was carrying her on social media at all. But I took them at the baby showers and everything like that because other people wanted to take them. But yeah, I was real uncomfortable with picture taking while I was carrying her. Yeah.
Let's talk about the baby shower. I do have a question I want to go back to, and I see Kimberly has a question. But like, you know, all of the things that you would do, you know, that our culture generally do is celebrate motherhood, right? So like the baby shower, like what are the things did you do, Sarah, to celebrate motherhood?
Let's see. So I think during pregnancy, I think my baby shower was probably the biggest thing. My in-laws, I lost my mother and my father. So my in-laws are a huge part of my life and my daughter's life, of course. So other than the baby shower, Mother's Day came around when I was pregnant, and they celebrated me very, very, it was very sweet. So they said, you know, I know you're about to have your own baby and, you know, you're going to call yourself a mother, but to them, they felt like I was still a mom before I had my baby because I raised my boys. I raised my wife's son. So, but it just felt really good that they could acknowledge that moment, even with my baby still in my belly. So I think those were the two major things I did as far as motherhood, was the baby shower and Mother's Day. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, T. Anything
Yeah, I got the similar acknowledgement that Mother's Day before having my daughter's birthdays in October 14th.
Oh.
When Mother's Day rolled around, as I was carrying her, everyone celebrated me. And it was kind of new for me, of course, because I'm like, well, she's not here yet. They're like, yeah, but you're still a mom. You're carrying her. You've been carrying her. So
right.
It made me feel really good. And it was just kind of eye-opening, like, wow, I really am and gonna be a mother, you know, and it just made me feel real good and real special. So that's, other than that and the baby shower though, that's pretty much all, you know, I really did.
Look at you saying that's all I really did.
That's about it.
That's a lot. I do want to come back around to a question that I wanted to delve into more with you, T, which was around, one of the questions was around, how does your partner feel about you carrying the baby? Because a lot of our culture tends to be really heteronormative. The Black lesbian culture tends to be really heteronormative. And there's this expectation that feminine women be the ones to carry babies. but you mentioned that you had a partner at the time who kind of wanted to carry the baby. Did you feel like, did you feel any kind of way with her wanting to carry? Do you feel like she saw you differently, or she was trying to like keep you in a certain, as a masculine woman looking a certain way because she, maybe she had some kind of feeling? I don't know about, I don't know. I'm just wondering, was that a conversation you all had?
Yeah, so I think it was numerous things. One being that she already had a child, and again, in the gay community, you don't. Hey, okay, let me talk real quick. Go take a bath, baby. You don't typically see in a stud-femme relationship the stud carrying the child. It's more common now, but it still brings a lot of questions. And for her, she had never been in a relationship with a woman that was like me, a masculine woman. Hey. I'm trying to get it. I'm sorry.
It's all good, y'all. It's all good.
I'm sorry. Come on. Shut the door. Okay. Sorry. I told you this wouldn't. Yeah. So one, she wasn't used to a woman like me wanting to carry. And I think she was afraid of what other people would think with her. And I think it kind of confused her. Like, why do you want to carry your own child when I'm here and I'm a femme and I can do it for you? She's like, I already had a child. And I was like, that's, I've been down that road before. So it actually caused a lot of problems with me and her, to the point that I didn't want to pursue a relationship with her for a certain point in time because, before I even start carrying my child, there were questions like, well, are you going to do more for your child than my child? And things that I'm like, let me have my child first. You know what I'm saying? I think it was just a lot of confusion that kind of turned me off to her during that time, because it was something that I really, really wanted. And for her being a new person in my life, trying to kind of steer me in a different direction from that. And I think she was in that mind frame that a lot of women in the gay community are, that stud, you're supposed to be the masculine one and help me take the more manly role. And I honestly think that she thought I would be like they say studs be more like the father. And I was like, I'm a woman. I'm a stud, but I'm a woman. I'm going to take the motherly role. She will understand that there is no father in the picture. Mom wanted a baby, and had a donor when she was old enough to understand. But I think she thought I was more masculine, male type role with my child, and her be the mother to the child. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I was just like, no, I'm her mom, regardless of how I carry myself and how I dress.
Which makes me think, and I feel like I'm asking these questions backwards, but do you feel like dating while pregnant, was that like a challenge for you?
Yes, because at the time we had just met, we spent our first Valentine's Day. I found out I was pregnant on February 7th of 2016, and we celebrated our first Valentine's Day together that Valentine's Day, but we had just started talking a few months prior in December. So it was very, very new. And we were still learning each other. And for her, this situation was uncomfortable and new for her. And for me, it was like, okay, it's either you're gonna basically get with the program because this is something that I want. So it was very challenging, very, very challenging.
Any tips for women out there who may be pregnant and, or want to get pregnant and they're single while doing so? Any things that you wish you knew, or you would say to somebody if they, had questions about, how can you handle this best?
My advice would be just make sure you have support from your family and close friends, people that actually matter to you the most. But because I decided to do it while I was single, I just met somebody as I was going through the process of carrying her. So I had come to terms with myself that I was financially stable enough to do it. I had the support of the people around me that actually mattered. And I put myself in that mental state that I'm going to raise this child alone, that I don't need to depend on a partner or someone to do this. So once I came to that determination, that's when it was just like, okay, I'm gonna push through with it. And it can be done, because a lot of people say, oh, I'm gonna wait till I'm in a better space, or I'm gonna wait till this, and I'm gonna wait till things are perfect. Things will never just always be perfect. And if it's something you really, really want, don't wait till it's right. That's why I went ahead and pushed through, because I'm like, I'm just getting older and older, and I want to actually enjoy my child growing up. I want to still be able to run around and play ball or whatever it is that she wants to do. So it's in your heart to do it, just do it.
That's right.
Got it. Let me just go ahead and get Kimberly's. She has a question here. She says, thank you both for sharing your stories and perspectives. Actually, this is a good question. She says, did you have issues with your wives or partners about agreeing on which donor to use? Were there any donors you wanted that your wife didn't want to use, or vice versa? How did you resolve issues like this? And if you're still growing your family, that's a great question. Are you still growing your family? Would you use the same donor again?
You want me to go first, or Sarah?
Either way.
It doesn't. T, go ahead. I'll go after you.
I've decided that I didn't want any more children. My partner wants more children, so that's still kind of an ongoing kind of back and forth thing. As far as the donor situation, so interesting thing is, I know my donor. We signed a 2-party contract when I start getting the sperm, so that later in life I can't come and say, hey, I know you're the father of this child, I want child support, and then he can't come to me and say, hey, I want guardianship over this child, that was my sperm. But what happened was, he has some kind of emotional connection. Even though he's never met my daughter, he still wants to have something to do with her. And I said, when she's about 16, old enough to understand what's going on, if she wants to have a relationship with the donor, I don't have a problem with that. It's something that I talk to my partner with as well. But I don't think it would be a good idea to have the same donor, because he has an emotional connection for whatever reason. And he has a family of his own, but he said he feels like there's just a child out there that he has, you know, some connection to. So I think that's something that women should also consider when they're using donors that they know.
Absolutely.
It's not something that I foresaw or even thought about until after it happened. And, you know, it just, I guess I don't know. But that's something that they should definitely think about if you're using a donor that you know, because they may end up having some kind of connection and want to be involved. And if you're one of those parents that just want to not, that other person not to be involved, that's a discussion you have to have.
Sarah, what is your take on that?
T, well, first of all, was that Kimberly question?
Yeah, that was Kimberly. Had a couple questions, but really was mostly about the donor situation.
Gotcha.
Donor again? Yeah,
Kimberly, that was a great question. And T, I love your answer. And that's very interesting that you said that, because me and my wife, our donor is completely anonymous. We decided to keep it completely anonymous. At first, I wasn't for that, because a part of me wanted, I didn't want to deal with the fact that my child didn't know her father. That bothered me for a long time, until I looked at documentaries and YouTube videos, and I read up on a lot of situations and these kids out here that have anonymous donors. So I had to educate myself completely before I completely agreed to the anonymous thing, right? The way my wife explained it in the beginning, because I wanted what I wanted, to me, it seemed kind of selfish on her behalf, you know? But when I started educating myself more, I was like, you know what, this makes complete sense. And T, your answer just now, I think that was kind of confirmation to what my wife was trying to tell me in the beginning, about the emotional connections these men have to their children, which is completely understandable, you know? But yeah, we kept our donor completely anonymous. She do have the option to, you know, meet her donor when she turned 18, if he can agree to it. But I want to, me and my wife, we want to be able to explain, you know, the truth to her and what it was like to go the route we decided to go. I didn't want something to happen to me and he's able to come back and take the child from my wife. We just didn't want that. It was kind of scary, but I think we made the right decision, and my child is being raised by two of the most loving women, you know, that she'll ever know. But I'm really glad we went that route. So we kept it completely anonymous.
Yep, and even with my decision at first, even though I knew the donor, I thought I was gonna tell my daughter that I didn't know, that it was anonymous, but then it just kept weighing on me and I was like, yeah. I don't want to be the first person to break her heart and lie to her and then her grow up and resent me, because I do know this other part of her, this other piece of her that she may or may not want to, you know, reach out and learn more about. And then at first my partner wasn't in agreement with her because she felt like, well, where does that leave me? I'm her, you know, her second mom, but that you're her mom and that's technically her dad. So she kind of had some insecurities with me allowing her, if she wants to at a certain age, to have a relationship with him. Where does that leave her? And I'm like, you know, you've been there since birth, since before she was born. Like, that's not going to jeopardize or compromise any bond that y'all have. So you really have to talk to your partner and just make sure you're completely transparent and take their feelings into consideration when you're thinking about this whole thing, because things that you wouldn't even think of that could be really sensitive to everybody involved, the child, the donor, your partner, and even yourself. You have to really consider all avenues when you do it.
And to go back to the beginning of the question, I do want another child. I do. And I do want to carry again. And we would love to use the same donor, but unfortunately, he's not giving out any more sperm. So, you know, we'll probably have to go a different route. I think, of course, we'll keep it anonymous again. And my daughter, she's half Korean. My wife is half Asian. So we wanted to keep it in the African-American, Asian descent, because I'm Black and my wife is half Asian. So we'll probably go the same route, just so my daughter can at least have the same mommy, you know. They'll probably have different donors, but I definitely would like to do it again. My wife is on the iffy side about it because I stay really busy running a business and also working a full 9 to 5. I'm still trying to learn balance, the mother and professional and the wife balance, still all at once. Like I think I have the most amazing life partner there is. I could not imagine doing this without my wife. I could not imagine. Like she is a lifesaver, and my daughter loves her so much. But if God said, you know, if you want it again, I would say absolutely. I absolutely love children. I moved to Charlotte. I met my wife. I moved away from Virginia, and I said, you know what? I really, really want to build my own family, and that's exactly what I've done. So I would definitely want to do it again.
Nice.
Awesome. So here's a question, a comment I kind of wanted to have before we wrap up, because I know the kids are getting antsy. And I don't want to keep you longer than I promised. But the question that I have for you is, there is this concept when two women raise a child that there needs to be a father figure in the child's life. The child is missing out somehow.
Good question.
You know, and I don't know, I'm not even sure how to phrase this in a way that's not offensive, but do you think when there is a situation where there is a masculine woman, that there is some sort of like a compliment, like that kind of not solves it, but that's one way of creating that or filling that perceived gap, which I don't think there's a gap personally. I'm just asking the question.
You want me to go? See?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. To be transparent, I think that every child needs a feminine figure and they need a masculine figure. It doesn't necessarily have to, I grew up without my father, but I had amazing men in my life, you know? I think that, you know, even though we're dominant or masculine women, at the end of the day, we're still women. You know, I don't think that I could ever teach a boy how to be a man. Now, I can always teach my sons how to be responsible, but I can never teach you how to be a man. So therefore, I think every child needs that is balance, you know? I think every child needs a dominant figure, and I think every child needs that feminine figure.
Got it. Thank you. T, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. You know, my daughter has amazing men in her family, as do I. She may not have a father figure, but she has a grandfather that loves her. She has several uncles. When it's daddy-daughter dance time, I'm not gonna dress up and take her. I'm gonna let one of her uncles take her, you know.
Right.
And I just think that as long as you surround her with those men, those role model men that are in your family that are loving and caring to you, they're gonna nurture her too. So I don't try to be a man, as people say, even though I carry myself in a very masculine manner. I still shave my legs and I take care of myself as a woman should.
Right.
It's more attitude and how I carry myself. So I don't try to be a man. It confused her a little bit with how I dress because she's in daycare now. And she say, "Mommy, you're not a girl, you a boy." I'm like, "Mommy is a girl. Mommy has boobies." I was like, "They're just mommy's clothes, you know?" And I didn't take into consideration that when I was carrying her, just that she categorizes. That's what guys with what they see. And they see me, she sees me looking and dressing like uncles, you know, her half brother, like her stepbrother and things like that. But it's just learning as you go. And I still instill in her, I'm your mom, I'm your mommy. And she knows that. She'll just know that I'm a cool mommy. I'm a different kind of mommy, you know.
That's right. Cool mommy. I love that.
Yeah.
But you know, that's a good point that